The stories we tell ourselves are very powerful. And I learned a lot of this in recovery because I'm a college dropout. I was a drug addict. I was a liar. I was a thief. I was not a good person. But in the long run, those were things I did, not who I was. And so I had that chance to make that change. But the only way you make that change is to break through the story.
Welcome, the What If You Could podcast. And today, my awesome guest, who stole my name, by the way, with the What If You Could, is Doug Fleener. Hello, Doug.
Hello, Gary.
Where are you physically located?
I am outside Boston.
Oh, yeah.
Where are
Love
you?
Boston. I'm in California. My son lives in Maryland, but I've been to Boston a long time. I can't drive there, but I'd love to be there.
It's okay. The people in Boston can't drive either. So,
That's a wicked, wicked place.
well, that's
But
what
we're
happens
going
when you lay roads out for cattle rather than cars.
to exactly. Exactly, and then choose not to change it, but well,
Mm.
so we're gonna jump in here. Doug's got a ton of stuff going on, but the most recent thing he has going on is a new book coming out, I think real soon, right? Did it make it for January 6th?
Yes, yesterday. Yes, yesterday as we record this.
That's shocking. You hit your deadline. Most
Yeah.
publishers never do. I'm proud of you. So it is
Yeah.
actually out now. Start with what if? Weekly questions to spark immediate change and growth. And again, it was released just January 6th, 2026. So, Doug, I can't wait to jump in here and cover all the stuff. You're coaching, you're speaking, you do so much wonderful things. But we are the What If You Could podcast. So I'd like to ask all my guests before we get started. Uh, Doug Fleener, what is your what if you could?
I had my answer ready, and then when you just asked, yeah, I think most reactions, it would seem to me that for most of us, we think about what if we could backwards, right? I was like, what if I could change something or what have you? And for me, mine is a forward, and you know, I would just say, what if I could introduce this book in person in every continent?
How many languages will the book be done in? I guess that just depends on sales, or how do they choose what languages to put a book in?
Well, it would be right now. It would be English, and with books nowadays, right? With print on demand, they're available everywhere, but
Mhm.
they are in English. Audiobook is also in English. So you do point out that there is one flaw in my what if I could. So I guess I will say that I will go to where it's English as a
But that's okay. I mean, books get translated. If you haven't noticed, I like books. I've got a lot of books.
yes.
And a lot of times it'll say in there, this book's been translated into 27 different languages. You go, holy crap, it's a lot of languages. Um, but that's a good what if you, because you will be out there traveling the world sharing this story without any doubt like that. Um,
Thank
you
you.
do so much though besides that. I mean, you do a lot of other stuff. You do the coaching, you do the speaking, you have another book or two other books. Um, where did this one come from?
Well, this one, so you said, like I said, it's my third book. So the first book I wrote was on retail, and that was like 20 some years ago. So I was head of retail for Bose Corporation. So I used to focus a lot working with retailers, national chains, local retailers, on retail and also customer experience. And then there was like, I don't know, like 18 years between books. I just nothing came to me. Even though I write a lot, I do a lot of newsletters and such. And so 2 years ago, I wrote a book called "The Day Makes the Year Makes a Life," and that book was based upon. So I have 38 years in recovery, and I'll share a little story about how that came to be. But so that book is really about the principles of what I learned in recovery as a pretty much applied to business. And and then this past book, You know, I'm a big believer in that there's brilliance in simplicity, right? I think we overcomplicate things. Um, Life isn't really that complicated, but as humans, we're very complicated. And and so my goal is always to really simplify uh, my way through life and simplify, right? Not dumb down. Big difference, right? And so I looked back and said, well, what is it? How have I evolved? And we were just talking a little bit about age before we started recording. And as you get a little older, more body parts hurt and they droop and everything else. But yeah, but you also kind of you've learned along the way. And so one of the things I wanted to do was go back and look at what was happening at every moment of change in my life, big moments, small moments, and what was going on there. And is that something that I could write about and share with the world? And that's how I came up with at the time, and I was able to trace it back to a guy who asked me a what if question. But what I came to realize is that every big moment, small moment, any change in growth moments, something happened to interrupt me. And so I talk a lot about like interrupters, right? That it's our when something happens, it's our natural inclination to react. And that reaction is an accumulation of kind of everything that we've learned and we've done in our life. And sometimes we need this interruption to be able to just kind of stop the automatic response and change, whether it's something mental, whether it's something physical, and, uh, and so I was able to go back and say, "Well, these interrupters have happened," and then try to put it into something that is applicable, right? Because I think, at its core, w start with what if questions, which is a key element of this, is really about reframing. But reframing on itself makes really no change. So I put together, and we'll talk about a little bit, is a little three-step process. So anyway, in that way I wrote this book is I came up with this process, and then I was like, okay, excuse me, I'll write a book about this. And then I said, well, if it's going to be simple, how it shouldn't take a whole book to explain it, right? And there's a lot of books out there that take a whole book to explain something simple. I didn't want it to be that book. So I wrote one chapter on called the What If Rule. I wrote another chapter called on the What If Moment. And then the rest of the book is about 52 different questions that you can apply the what if questions in your life.
Hmm, hmm.
So what I set out to write is not what I end up writing.
Interruption. Man, how many of us can look back? I could look back and we can call it the Y in the road. We should have gone right, but we went left, or you know, we were blowing and going, and then my wife got cancer and died, and it kind of put a little kibosh and a bunch of shit.
Yeah, I think
Interruptions
so.
is a very interesting term for life events, moments of change, you call them, but interruptions. But not a lot we could do about interruptions, but like anything else, I guess, is how we respond to that interruption. I didn't respond well to my wife dying 11 years ago. I still haven't. But
Right.
yeah, interrupters. How do we handle them when we see them or when they hit?
Well, I think when I think of interrupters, right, and it's something that has broken, right, our the rhythm of our day or the rhythm of our life. And to me, they're the same. It's just a multiplier, right? But so, but I want to let's talk it at as an interrupter at the very lowest level. So I'm at work and I have a really annoying coworker, and that and you're trying to get something done, and that coworker walks in and says something just completely annoying because they're an annoying person, and so you can either respond. But there's also this brief moment that you can pause and choose your response. You can pause and change your perspective.
Right.
And so So what's really key on this is what I'm trying to share with people is that you can always change your perspective and options. It doesn't change the facts, right? It doesn't change that this person interrupted you, this person is annoying or what have you, or that something terrible has happened in your life. But by pausing for a moment and looking for the ability to see different perspectives and different options allows you to be able to respond, reply, move forward all in a more intentional way.
I love the word pause, and I love the word intention, intentional. 'Cause, it's so true. We live in a world right now of instant reaction.
Mm,
Like instant reaction, right? It's like a like or a face or a smiley or a protest or, I hate everybody or it's just like it's just like this instant reaction. It's like, dude, where did you all get 10,000 of the same signs like in 20 minutes? How did that happen? It's like the pause is so important. You know,
yeah.
the we used to call it biting your tongue, I mean,
Mm,
just go, okay. This dude's a total douchebag. He knows I'm right in the middle of this thing. He comes over to ask me about the Yankee game. I don't even care. I hope they lost. but but you have to take that pause and go, okay, how am I going to respond to this guy? Because I could ruin my day just on how I react to this. Not that I care about how he's going to take my reaction, but I could hold the anger. I could be frustrated. I could get offline. There's so many things that happen to me. So having that pause, I love that word. And then being intentional about how you handle that interaction are two real important things. That's crucial stuff.
yeah, and but what you can even change, right, is to change your perspective. So, there's maybe a good chance that in this example, the guy isn't really there to talk about the Yankees, right? He may have so right. So the pauses. So, what if this guy's here to ask me for some help? What if he's trying to build a relationship that he knows frayed,
Hmm.
right? And so, there's kind of like there's what's in front of us. But when you can learn to see all these different sides of it, you can so often find a side that works that is maybe more the true side, or is at least one that works for you and in that moment. And that, I think one of the most important things that can be cl- key to our happiness and our relationships is that we always have a choice. Right? We always have a choice in what we think and and how we respond. And and your point about right in this world today of such instant interaction, everything, you know, right? It's all love and hate. It's agree, disagree, right? And so be able to get a different perspective. I think one of the best things we can do in this world today is to see their perspective. Don't mean I have to agree with it, but it doesn't have to mean they're wrong. Who am I to say what's right and what's wrong? Well, that's a loaded question we could probably do a whole nother episode on, right?
Well, I wish that were true. I mean, I remember back in the day, we purposely had dinner parties at our house, and we picked opposite sides. We'd pick 6 people or 5 people or 8 people, whatever. And I made sure I had a mix of.
Mhm.
I wanted it to go. Let's go. I want everyone to get, and let's go at it. I'm going to make dinner. I'm going to serve wine. We're going to go after it, right? But you can't do that anymore. It's you can't let's just say it's more
It's
challenging to
definitely more
find
challenging.
someone,
Yep.
yeah, that you can go and say, "Hey, I see parts of your rationale, and I can agree with many of the things you're saying. Um, my point of view is this, right? It's so challenging to go there, but we could do a whole another episode on that. I want to go back. There's a First of all, congratulations on your recovery. My
Thank
wife
you.
is 23 years. My new wife is 23 years now. And when we got married, I I was a normie. I called me a normie, and I drank. But I stopped drinking right when she told me she was sober, not for any reason except just wanted to be on the same wavelength, right? And then she's like, "You can have beer or wine. I don't
Right,
care. I just
yeah.
don't want you to be a sloppy douchebag." I go, I'll just be a sober douchebag."
Sober douchebag,
Um,
yeah, that's right.
right? But I did what I always do, which I love to do, is I took a deep dive into AA. Now, did you do AA? Did you go
Yeah.
through
Well,
alcoholism?
I mean, I do a 12-step recovery program, and,
Mhm.
oh, but I also believe there's so many different ways for one to get sober, one to change their life. I know what worked for me, but I think there's also very many different ways, and a 12-step recovery program did work for me.
Yeah. It's an amazing program. I think a lot of people should do that sort of introspective, whether they're an alcoholic or not. I mean, the 12 steps, after doing that deep dive, I go, that's really an amazing program. It exposes so much. It's not easy to do a lot of the work that you have to do in that. But I digress. About the second part of your book, the 52, obviously, for those are weeks of the year, I would imagine, right? Um, what do those include? What do you want us to do with your 52 little questions there at the end?
Well, so there's two key elements. Let me set this up, right? So there's really two key elements in their chapters in the book. Is The first is what I just call what if moments, right? So there's always this opportunity to be able to just kind of be able to change directions, change perspective, change your options, and there are much more of them than you even know until you start to practice it, and then you start to see that there's always these opportunities. And so it starts with a what if moment, and then it goes to the what if rule. And so the what if rule is the three simple steps of pause, question, go. So right, take
Wait,
that pause,
what was the last one? Pause,
go,
question,
and
go.
go.
Mhm.
Right. And so what happens with a lot people talk a lot about reframing or mindfulness and what have you. But I think for a lot of people they can stop and think about something and then not do anything. Right, and sometimes doing nothing, as long as it's a conscious decision, right? Doing nothing is a decision. But for most people, they think about something and then they go back into their habits and their routines. Uh, and so the problem is that so often the stories we've told ourselves, the stories others have told us, so I'm bad at this. I'm not, the things that become kind of who we are, we can really start to change those. And it starts with again, it's just, and that's really so what I'm looking for, and it's right in the subtitle of the book, right? Is I want people to be able to change and grow. And I think we've made change and growth just way too esoteric. Right. So all I can do, right? Change and grow in me is right, is the next action, the next thing I do. That's what creates change. That's what creates growth. It's not some big thing way out there, right? It's sometime today or in the next moment. And so the pause, question, and go is so the question part is a what if. And so the what if really is a reframing. And so what I want to do is so there's 52, and there's actually I'll give away the secret. There's actually 53 because I think you should always exceed people's expectations, right? So,
You're a giver. You're a giver, Doug.
yeah, I've always done that is when I write an article, I give you 20 tips. I'm gonna give you 21 because I wanna exceed your expectations. And so, what I want someone to do is to and there's different ways to use the book. I've had a number of people, they read it all the way through. These are some of the people who got early copies, and, excuse me, and they read it all the way through, and then they go back and pick ones they want, or they read up to a weekly chapter. Again, the first 5, 6 chapters are framework, and then everything after that is I want you to sit with it and think about how you might apply it for the week. And so the questions are at all different levels. So let me just open the book and I'll just go to one. So this is number 31. What if this week you did something you've been thinking about that brings you joy? And so when I wrote this one, what I really was thinking about is that especially if, say, for working parents, right, who are just, get so busy in life that and so what I'm almost trying to do there is interrupt their routine. And so every chapter starts off with uh, some type of story, typically some type of example. This particular one is about how Vera Wang was actually had been a competitive figure skater, right? She wasn't a designer, but that was her passion. That's what brought her joy. So there's always some kind of story in there to really start to help you change your perspective. And so each one's about three pages long, 3 or 4 pages. And then at the end, I give you two different ways to apply it. One is called the fast path. So it's a number of questions for you to think about for the week. So this one is the fast path from thinking about joy to living it. And so the first step is name what you've been thinking about.
Mm.
Right? So if you think about, I'm gonna find joy, I gotta do all this stuff, I've always wanted to play more golf, so I gotta buy new golf clubs, right? I gotta right? And instead, what can you do this week to find that kind of joy? And then, again, I walk you through just 4 simple steps. You can be journaling, you can just think about it, uh, and and then what I'm hoping you'll do is to take action in that particular week to maybe just find a little bit of joy. But the questions really are just kind of, really all different levels. Uh, number 12, what if this week you found strength in a difficult moment? And then sometimes it's as much as really something simple. Some are a little heavier. What if this week you let yourself feel what you feel without judging yourself, right? You know,
I
wh-
bet a lot of people skip that chapter.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's another one in there I really like is what is the story, what is the story you've been telling yourself?
Mm.
Because when I coached people in business, and I still do, but it was exclusive business, I especially found people I used to love to teach people I love to teach, middle managers how to coach people. And one of the things that they would always tell me is and especially, uh, women managers would tell me that, they're not any good at coaching. And then so I'd always kinda try to break through it and let's look at what this is. And almost always, right, it's some judge it's either a story you've been told, "Oh, you don't like conflict." Coaching isn't conflict, right? If I'm helping you be better, or it's a story that comes out of an event, I had a friend of mine who had to try to coach someone, give them some bad news, and the woman stood up in the middle of the meeting, screamed, and ran out. So, she could tell her, her story could be as, "Well, I'm not good at delivering bad news." I had a case where I told a woman something and she stood up and screamed and walked, ran out the door. But one of the things I found in coaching people is the stories we tell ourselves are very powerful.
Mm.
And I learned a lot of this in recovery, right? Because I'm a college dropout. I was a drug addict. I was a liar. I was a thief. I was not a good person. But in the long run, those were things I did, not who I was. And so I had that chance to make that change. But the only way you make that change is to break through the story.
That's such a powerful thought, what you just said, and I think guilt plays such a part in our lives because we think we are what we did. And even when my wife passed, it was like, what could I have done more? What could I have done here? What could I have done there? It's
Sure.
like, dude, you didn't give her cancer. You
Right.
didn't do this, right? Everything. You know what I love about the book, and I love how you put it together is it's baby steps. It's real gentle. It's I'm not telling you what to do or telling you you're good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just opening this up to you, and you could bounce around to different chapters and find the one you kind of feel that day that maybe strikes you, or go through it like a, you know, be disciplined And go through it that way. But I like that as baby steps and give people the chance to work into something softer to create a bigger change based on smaller steps.
Yeah, and, and I even say in the setup of the book, some will not apply to you, some will just annoy the hell out of you. And then I tell you, maybe that's the one you should read a little closer,
That's
right? That, uh, my, and, my story, you talk about regret is, I'd been in business in South Florida in the '80s with my father, and we were in the marine business. So this was on the intercoastal South Florida. 1/5 of my customers were drug runners. It was Miami Vice. It was cocaine, right? And so I
the
had,
good old days. It's the
yeah,
good old days.
yeah, yeah. But as I always joke, when penicillin fixed everything,
Exactly.
yeah, you rarely died from the stuff.
No.
And then you, but so I had really gotten wrapped up into the cocaine, and my father was a business partner in my marine supply store. And so I would buy merchandise and then I would trade it for cocaine. Well, you can only do that so long because your suppliers want paid and everything. And,
Yes.
but I kept the gig going for a while. But in this is in 85, 86, 87. I stole $100,000, which in 85, 86, 87 was a lot of money for a small business and still is today, but even more back
Yeah.
then. And my father was about to figure out that what I'd been doing. And so I took off, right? What do you do? I'm in my 20s, but still I'm going to run away from home. And uh, I actually woke up from a blackout in the center seat of an airplane landing in
In
Houston.
the what?
In right, in the center seat of an airplane. That's where I woke up.
Holy shit.
I
And
talk
where am I going?
you yeah, yeah, and I was just describing it. You know how you've had that real big hangover? It was after a Super Bowl, so I'd done this big blown out Super Bowl party, and, I'm laying there, or I think I'm laying, and I'm trying to open my eyes like, "Oh," when your eyelids are, like, stuck together after one hell of a run.
Yeah.
And I can't and then all of a sudden it goes, "Oh, we'll be landing in Houston International." I'm like and, that's that was that was my last drink. It's hard to it's
So,
hard to top.
did you ever figure out how the hell you got on a plane from Miami to go to Houston?
Yeah, I actually had gone to I drank and drugged for like 36 hours straight, and, I'd gone to the bank when it opened on Monday morning, and I wiped out our bank account, and then I drove to the airport, and back then, there was no TSA, there was no worrying about who got on planes, so I bought a one-way ticket. I was going to Hawaii. I mean, if you're gonna leave Florida, where do you wanna go? Hawaii makes sense, and
Yeah.
I was in the boat business, they have boats.
I was thinking Mexico, but yeah, all right.
Yeah, yeah. It's only my father, nobody else was chasing me, and, so but I was making a connection in Houston, just so happened my brother lived there, so I called him from the airport. He's like, dude, dad's looking for you."
Really? I'm
Yeah.
shocked. Wait, dad's looking for you, and you're thinking, "What kind of mood's he in?" before I call him.
Yeah. Hey, I will tell you, that flight back to Florida was one of the longest flights of my life. I had to face it, and, so I fly back, I meet with my father, and I'm
Did you
like,
have
"Don't
any
worry."
money? Hey, Tony Montano, did you have any money left?
I had a big wad of cash in my pocket that what was ever
Nice.
left in the yeah. Yeah, if you're gonna go out in flames. Um, but,
Of
so I had
course.
to go I had to go meet up with him, and he wanted me to go see, a professional about my drinking and drug use. Makes sense.
Yeah,
Now, I rarely tell this story, but with you, I have to share this story. So so I go to this
please
guy.
do.
I go to this guy and he's like, "Well, I have this theory about alcoholics, that they're warriors from a past, and they drink because there's no battles anymore to fight. So, what if what if I hypnotized you and I spoke to that warrior? And I'm like, "Oh, hell no." True story.
was thinking the opposite. I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah. You bring on Marcus Aurelius. You bring
Uh,
on Gladiator. I wanna know who I am. If I'm a badass
ah,
gladiator, because I and the beauty of that story is, it's the beauty of AA and a lot of other programs, right? You go into the rooms and you whip out that story with your head down, full of shame. Like, these people will never speak to me again. They'll think I'm the worst human alive. And when you're done with that story, they go, "Dude, that's it? That's all
right.
you got? That ain't nothing, bro. Let me show you."
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like when you dump out 100 problems in front of 99 people and go, "Okay, everyone pick we all dumped out our own worst problem. Now you guys pick a new one." At the end of it, they, "Gosh, fuck it, I'm gonna keep mine,"
Yeah.
because it's as bad as that sounds to a lot of people, that doesn't even scratch the surface
But,
for a
yeah,
lot
no, I
of
mean,
people.
there's always
But it's
another
but but it's
story.
but I'm still giving it a solid 9, Doug.
Oh, thank you, yes.
'Cause it was really
Yeah, when you wake up in the center seat.
that's pretty
But he
good. I mean,
but here's the
I've
point.
woken up a lot of places where I didn't know where I
Mm.
was when I woke up or who I was with, but I sure as shit was not in an airplane.
I remember one time calling the, front desk to ask where I was because I
I
had
got
no
to the
idea.
point where when I checked into a hotel, I always took the business card of the hotel or something of the hotel, just in case I went out partying and said, "Oh, shit, I don't remember
Yeah,
where
right,
I'm," so I could hand it to the cab driver and go,
right.
"Hey, man, I'm staying here," right? I'm staying here.
Were you a Boy
Um,
Scout? Because
am
that's
I
very
a
well
boy
prepared.
right, that well, after a couple of crash and burn missions where
I
you
was gonna say
don't
you
know where
learned to
your
get a
shit
business card, right?
the
You didn't just have
survival
that idea,
technique.
right?
Um, I love that, man. I love that. So you get home, your dad sends you in there. Were you able to keep the business? Were you able to keep the
No,
main company?
no, we had to sell it. But the one thing that the guy who I didn't let hypnotize, one of the things he did say he suggested is, "Why don't you try a 12-step program?" And so I'll tell my father I'm going to this 12-step program so he'll get off my ass, right? I just wanted to go back to doing what I was doing,
First,
right? We have a little speed bump here. I bankrupted the business, screwed my father over, but it's a small little speed bump. And and then, two things happened. And one is when I went into recovery, I found people who were happy. And what I realized is I wasn't really happy. What I thought was happiness was really chaos. And then the second thing that happened is, and this is kind of my first what if question that really I can remember, and it was a true what if question is I was having coffee with this guy and I'm telling him all about my problems. Like, I stole all this money. I bankrupted my family. I got to get a job. I got to do this. I got to do this. Oh my God, I got to lie out. And this guy just stopped me and he goes, well, what if today you just went a day without a drink and a drug? And that was the first interrupter of my life, or at least the one I can remember. And, so, and that is kind of, that's those big moments, right? That he was able to just kind of stop me in my tracks of overthinking and overwhelmness. And I'm sure a lot, the people listening and watching, right? They may not be that big a story, but the reactions are still the same. The overthinking, just overwhelmness. And the only way to change it, right, is to interrupt the moment. And that's what that guy did for me. I didn't know it at the time.
I love that, and I I tried to do this once. Tried once. A friend of mine said he was a fellow coach. I did a little bit of coaching, real estate coaching and stuff, and I do some other grief coaching stuff. But um, he said to me, "Dude, you have so much time and you have so much talent, but you're a fuck up. And the reason you are is because you aren't focused. You waste too much time on bullshit." I go, "No, I don't, dude. I get up at 6, or 5:30. For a while, it was 5:45. I'd do my goals. I'd go to the gym. I mean, I was very disciplined. What are you telling me?" He goes, "Do me a favor." He goes, "Spend a week and in your journal, because I journal a lot." He goes, "Write down every stop every 15 minutes through your day and write down what you did the previous 15 minutes. Do this every day for a week and bring it to me and let's see what you get done, how busy you actually are, right?" And of course, I made it 45 minutes because I'm a squirrel and I have no discipline. But it was brilliant and I got it. And even though I didn't do his assignment, we're still good friends. I still love him after 40 some years. I got it, right? And what I love about your book is you're giving people gentle ways to, you know, write some things down. Here's 4 little options. Here's your week, and be a little thoughtful on your time. The pause, the question, and the go. Um, I love that because I think I've got, oh, 200 journals laying around here. I've gone through so many business journals, so many personal journals, so many self-help journals, all this crap. And I've never found one that I've really just go, "This is the best ever.
Mm.
This is the one." Right? Because there's always something missing. But I love the approach of what you're doing with the start with what if. Obviously, I love the what if question.
Thank you.
But
Yes,
yeah,
obviously. You know,
obviously.
when you talk about, journaling, so, right, so, I suggest maybe you can journal with this, or you can just read and answer the questions in your head. I mean, right? So, even just putting that question in the head, and then as you go out into the day, you'll have that moment, or you can have that epiphany or what have you. But I used to journal a lot and, just like yourself, and somewhere along the line, I switched up what I did. And I can't tell you exactly when and why, uh, but and really it came around intentions, right? So what I found was I would journal about either I was journaling how I felt, and at the end of the day, I'd kind of journal about how what I did, and right, and over, and but I changed that one day when I my morning journaling, which I use the one app Day One. I don't know if you've ever used it. It's a great online app for journaling, and it's like $29, $39 a month. It's on your online MacBook, iPhone, you name it. It's really
I don't know how to use an app. I need paper. I have to have paper. Bring me the paper.
my problem with paper is I can't read what I wrote after I write it. So that's
There's
why I have to
that here.
type. But but I changed up and I call it future journaling. And so what I do is every
What do
morning,
you call it what?
future journaling.
Future journaling. Yes.
And,
I like
and so they and so it's a little different. And so what I do is I start my day with really kind of three elements. And it always starts with who do I want to be today? Right. So it's really setting my intentions. Right. So today I wanted to be a good husband. I want to be a good father. I want to be selfless. I want to be a good podcast guest. I want to be a good marketer. Uh, and that, but when I put those intentions out each morning as a start, it's kind of a north star for me for the day. And if I get off from that, and it's much more noticeable. But I'll write something effective. I want to be extra supportive today. Maybe if someone, a friend, is going through something, I want to make sure. You know, and so I'll start off with who I want to be, and then it's what are the outcomes I want? And outcomes are a little different than to-dos, right? What happens for most of us is we just start our day and we just jump into email and to-dos. But for me, I wanna focus more on the outcomes, right? So today, I want to be able to with my book just launching, right? I wanna be able to get the book into I worked hard on getting into librarians' hands and see if we get bought by the librarian. So, my outcome was to is to get exposure into the librarians, which is different again to than to-dos. And then I end with what are some of just my major to-dos to do for the day. And so it's a three-parter. Literally takes me 5-10 minutes because I can type it out pretty fast. And, uh, and that's how I journal in the morning. And then at night, and I'll be honest, I fall asleep a lot at night now than I'm more than I used to, right? Or as Jimmy Buffett used to was singing, I get up now about when I used to go to bed, and I love that line. And so sometimes I
and
have to
and
finish.
you and I both know that feeling of, "Is that the sun coming
Yeah.
up? Oh,
Oh
shit."
crap! I got to go to work.
I know.
Oh,
I should at least change my shirt. Yeah, maybe not,
oh, to be young. Those days ended. But in the evening when possible, and most of the time I can do it, is I just do a couple notes in the journal in what I what I how I did for the day. And so I circle back on on my intentions. And then, something I could be proud of or something I'm a little frustrated. And I will tell you the thing about doing it online now is if you really want to take your journaling to another level, is you can then run that through your a chat AI who knows you well. And so my wife gets a little jealous of my relationship with, my
Which one are you using? Are you using chat?
I use ChatGPT, also I use Claude. Um, I use it, probably like, I probably would use like a business partner or something. I do it for brainstorming, um, and getting different perspectives. So anyway, so in the back of the book, uh there's a little thing as a thank you for those who buy the book is to be able to sign up for the a course on my future journaling. It's a 3-day course, um, but that's how really changed for me when I started this day knowing who I want to be because you know I think for a lot. And I'll talk for myself, not for other people. You know, I think was oftentimes a gap between who I really was and who I thought I was. And so the only way to close that gap and to live with intentions is to start off with the desire of what you want to be. And let me just say, I still can get mad. I can still make mistakes, but I make less of them because I start the day off with intentions.
It's funny you were talking about the old, Jimmy Buffett line, and I love the line that says, "The older I get, the better I was."
Yeah.
I was looking back, I was really good, man. I was really good back in the day. What I love about your future journaling is it's very intentional. It's very intentional. It's like I'm going to go out into this day with an intention for myself or a couple of them, whatever. And it gives me, like you said, the North Star to kind of shoot for. Because how many times do you wake up on a Thursday, not in an airplane, but you wake up on a Thursday and you go, shit, what happened to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? I mean, it's
Mm.
like, I can't be at Thursday already. Tomorrow's Friday. I haven't done shit. I don't even, what the heck, right? So, because we really haven't, we got up, we did the same shit, blah, 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 blah. We go to bed and we just get in this hamster wheel. And the next thing you know, a month's gone by, 6 months has gone by. And we haven't really achieved a lot of the things that we had hoped to, or we're still kind of in the same spot. And what you're giving us a tool to do in your morning process here is start with an intention. And just imagine if every day, like I used to tell my kids, if you read 10 pages a day of a book, How many books could you read by the end of the
Mm.
year? Imagine that. You'll read more books in a year than most people read in a lifetime,
Boom.
you know? And now both of my boys are voracious readers, right? They love
That's
to read.
awesome.
Except my one son who's addicted to ChatGTP. He won't brush his teeth without going on ChatGPT. But, I think I think that, future journaling sets up a great intention. I mean, if every morning you did that and you set out with an intention every morning, whether you achieved it or not, that's a real powerful thing to make changes, to achieve stuff.
Now, so thank you. And the other thing that also allows you to do is be able to look at yesterday, how did I do on these things, and and gives me an opportunity to maybe do a particular little more narrow focus in a particular area. I write every day, right? I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good father. I want to be this, these things, and because you know, it's not gonna wake up one day. Man, I think I'll be a shitty husband, right? Right. But how I do those things can change, right? Based upon my wife or my daughters, what's going on in their life. Um, yeah, and again, I just went through this book launch, and and also my wife works, and so I'm kind of I work out of the house, and so when things got a lot going on, you know, uh, in the past, a while back, I would have been stressed, and you would have known my stress, and you would have done something that had nothing to do with me, but I would have made it about me. And so by having better intentions, so to me, there's really like two key words I think to really living a good life, right? Is intention and presence, right? So when I'm present, I'm usually, and the other thing I always say is, I want someone to be the better, not worse off, to be engaged with me at any moment, and so you know, it's how I do those things, and that's where again I think intentions and presence come in.
Man, I love that word presence. It is probably God, there's so many things lacking in our world right now, but it may be one of the most lacking things in our world right now. My wife and I, nothing drives us crazier, although of course we're guilty of doing it, is walking into a restaurant and there's a family of four, a mom, dad, and two little kids, and they're all four looking at their phones. They haven't looked up, they haven't chatted, they haven't interacted. So how many times through the day has the husband been present for his wife been present for the husbands, have they been present for their children, have
Mm,
children been present for them? They have not. So a week can go by. I mean, how many moments, not even hours, I mean, how many moments out of their day have they been present with their children? A husband and wife present with each other, right? It's I mean, what a powerful word for today's world where we're so distracted by every stupid frickin' thing that just what's the next thing? I don't know, but I'm pissed off. I don't know what it is yet, but
yeah.
I'm pissed off. It's like you can't live in the present if you live like that. And if you can't be have that presence with the people you love and the people you're around. And if you can't have it with yourself, if you can't grab those
Mm,
moments when you're in your future journaling or when you're doing your Start With What If book, um, and give yourself the gift of presence. I'm just going to be with myself, and have that quiet time to think about me. I love that word presence. It's such a powerful word, especially for today's world.
yeah, and I think especially like you said, you equated it to parenting. I think one of the things, right, that as your kids get older, right,
Mm.
is you know I I always laugh like, "Oh my god, I think the Cats in the Cradle song is coming true in my life," right?
Dude, no, no, God, I'm gonna start crying. Fuck. All right.
Yeah,
Oh my
but
God, yeah.
right, but one of the things is, right, as you get to a certain age, you realized, wow, all those moments, you know, I I did pretty well. I was pretty present, for my kids. You just the moment doesn't walk in with a sign that says, "This is gonna be one of your kids' most important moments of their life." right? Nobody, So I was just talking with someone the other day, and we were talking about parenting, and we were talking about presents, and I said, that I think, and this is for those who are watching who have children. I think some of the biggest moments are like when you pick your kid up at school,
Mhm.
right? Don't be thinking about the email. Don't be thinking about what you got to do because the kid's going to tell you about their life, and there's going to be a time where you don't get to hear that near as often. I mean, my I have 2 daughters in their 20s, and they're pretty good at keeping me involved in their life, even though they live out of town. But don't miss those moments because they won't always be there.
Love that moment right there because the kids had a crazy day. They're, like, overstimulated. Your day's been stimulated. You race to go pick them up. You got a ton of shit on your mind. They're thinking, "I gotta go home and do homework," or, "I gotta pee," or, "I'm hungry." But you've got them in this little capsule. You've got them in Get Smart's cone of silence. You and the chief are in there, and
Well,
you literally have this moment of time with them. There's no, turn off the radio, put your damn phone down. You're in this capsule. And no matter how far the drive is, that is a really special
mm,
time. I love that moment right there that you said, because that's a really powerful moment. You don't get a lot of those with your kid, right? Because they're like I used to tell my kids, when we take road trips, I'd throw them in the car, lock the doors, make sure they couldn't get out. And instead of putting on the radio, I'd put in Tony Robbins or Zig Ziglar or an Earl
some
Nightingale or Jim Rohn. And my wife would just go, "Ah, got you just wrong." She goes, "They're too young. They're not going to get all that stuff." I go, "It doesn't matter. They're going to hear it. They're gonna
mm,
hear it, they're gonna hear it, they're gonna hear it, and it's going to affect them at one day in their life. It's going to affect them, right? But
I just want
it's
to
a
say
beautiful thought you have.
I'm very upset because I did not have Get Smart on the bingo card today. The Get Smart reference. I think I would have hit bingo with that. So,
Well, I just love the fact that because my son and I are partners in our real estate business, right? I only do this because I'm so grateful to meet guys like you. But yeah, I've been a real estate broker for 35 years. We have our own company. And I can't wait to go back to the office and say, "You know what? I'm not as bad of a partner as this guy I just talked to."
hey,
I I am I know you think I suck and I don't know anything because you've been he's been a broker for 10 years. I've only been there 35 years, so he knows
right.
way more than me. But that's funny. But you're right about the presence, and especially with the children, and especially with what about this type of thing for, the kids? I mean, doing it with the kids, taking your what if book, um, and going through it with the kids, dude, you're 12. What are you thinking about right now? What's your intention? What do you want to do this week? I think it's a great book that you could, use with the children too, for the family.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think especially and this is true whether, it's with children and it's also as, uh, owners of companies, managers, and what have you, right? Is, probably one of the biggest mistakes we try to make is we try to fix things for people. Wanna help you get through it. And so for me, how you can use what if is, right, is to teach someone how to have that different perspective. And, so, well, what if you saw this in a different way and walked it through something with them? Especially I think, teenagers have a tendency, right, to think someone hates them or, right, the teacher's mean. The teacher just asked you to turn in your homework, right? so, so I think you can change that perspective. I don't know where I'm sure, everything I know I learned right from somewhere. I mean, that's just there's nothing original, but somewhere
There
along the
is no,
line,
there are no new things, Doc.
no, just repackaging. But somewhere along the line, I learned to ask and I think this is especially true with our spouses, is I is I learned to just ask, "What can I do?" And so we don't have to always fix things. What can I do? And it puts the power back in that person's hand. And yeah, I'm not sure where I learned it, but boy, it's a great way when you're trying to help someone.
Dude, you're gonna make all of us husbands look bad. That's a super empowering
It's
question for your
so simple too, huh?
children, your wives. What's that?
So simple.
Well, it is simple, but it's so powerful
Mhm.
because I don't care what's going on. I mean, you're married, I'm married, so we know our wives are insane. They just have thing my wife's a Gemini, a double Gemini, so she's completely insane. Um, and it doesn't matter what's happening. It's like, where did that come from? I wait a minute, I didn't cause an asteroid to hit Yugoslavia. I don't even know what you're talking about. So why are you mad at me? But what can I do? You know, you look at your kids and they got weird shit going on. You could look at them and ask them or your wife or one of your employees, how's your day going today? What can I do? That's a beautiful question. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. Again, I'm not sure where I learned it, but somebody must have
Yeah.
said it.
There's definitely nothing new out there. I mean, one of my favorite books up there is Lessons from Marcus Aurelius.
Mhm.
And you read that through that and you go, God, that dude was smart 2,500 years ago. You
And
know,
he
and
probably was
and
get took it from someone else.
oh, he definitely did. Yeah, he picked it up from frickin' XX3 Marcus, he didn't no, that came from somewhere else. I got another one called Think Like Da Vinci, and you go through it and you go, "This dude came up with this, an airplane and a submarine 500 years ago. Come on,
Yeah, that's
who do you think
crazy.
you are?" You think about some of these great thinkers, there isn't anything new. But I just wanna touch on that real quick is the book is new, start with what if, but you do a lot of speaking and coaching, so are you now starting to tilt some of your speaking and some of your coaching towards this start with what if question, or do you still have other modalities that you're using with your speaking and coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think where my coaching has evolved is that there's a lot of coaches out there. Yeah, trying to decide if I say this out right. There's a lot of people who are life coaches. Well, everything's life, so I'm not sure what it is about life coaching. But and please don't email me if you're a life coach. I still respect what you do. But what's also happened is there's been this blurring almost of lines of therapy and coaching, and uh, and I'm not a trained therapist. Um, but what I am really good at is helping you in the moment you're in. And so that's what my coaching is. So the coaching I do is really what I just call what if coaching. If you've got something going on, whether it's something in a relationship, whether it's something, in your business, or maybe a character defect that's getting in your way, I can quickly help you look at that and figure out how to move forward to make change and growth happen. And so I only do two types of coaching: one time call or a 1 month call, but I won't extend it past a month because, if it's something that you just need more after 4 weeks in this kind of area, then again, maybe you need someone who's a specific business coach. I could business coach, but it's not what I choose to do today.
Two quick stupid questions about your book. Number one, why librarians? Why are you trying to get it into libraries? Don't you want it in bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, and all?
Oh, yeah,
So,
no, there
what's
too.
your thought on librarians? I've never heard it. I talk to a lot of authors, if you can't tell, but I've never heard any of them say I'm go after the librarians.
Yeah, because I think I think, first of all, I have some kids who are very big readers who also they go to the library. Uh, but when you know, very few authors, as you know, very few authors going to make a living on their books, right? And so I'm not in it for the money, but I am in it to share the stories behind it and the way that I think can really create a new way for people to look at change and growth. And so I want it to be pretty wide. So yeah, I mean, I have worldwide distribution right through Amazon, every Amazon site in the country, and bookshop.org, and um, stores in the UK. I mean, yeah, so it's in those. But I think sometimes, right, for libraries, there's just, I think you can hit a certain segment of people who don't necessarily, they don't buy books. And so, if I can get one book that 20 people could read versus one book read by one person, and, then it shows up in the, used bookstore. And if I've made a dedication to you, I'm going to find you if you know,
Well, I
if you,
certainly love libraries. I've been forced into the library reluctantly because I don't have any more room on all my bookshelves,
mm,
and my book addiction has gotten too expensive. So, um,
let me just
but
say one more thing about the librarians. They
yeah,
do,
yeah, of course.
they're hard but incredible reviewers. When they read a book and give you a review, they don't just say, "I liked it." They can really tell you what worked, and it's some of the best feedback I think any author can get.
That's an awesome point. I'm gonna relay that to the next author that I talk to. That's an excellent point because we know librarians are mean. They're always shushing you. They're gonna hit you with a ruler. So yeah, they're not gonna hold up on a book, and they obviously have read a lot of books. So I love that about the librarian. I love libraries. Every time we travel, especially back east where you are, I love to go to these old libraries.
Mm.
But I worship old bookstores. My children, if they see a used bookstore before I do, they will make me look the other way. They'll go, "Dad, look over there. There's a unicorn," because they know if I see it, we're the next 2 hours we're going to be in the used
Right.
bookstore. And if it wasn't for libraries, we wouldn't have Og Mandino. Og Mandino would have never been Og Mandino. We'd never have these amazing books by him if he didn't have a library to go get out of the cold into. My second stupid question about your book is, did you do the voice? Did you read your own book, or did you have
No,
to read it? Yeah, yeah.
actually, it's, it's a beautiful thing now. It can actually be done with, AI through Amazon, and I did pick out the voice. Uh, yeah, I considered, on the last book, looked into the whole recording of it and what have you. Um, if a book can take off financially, it makes sense, but it can be, a pretty expensive venture to do it. But now, literally, they make the AI recording an audiobook in about 5 minutes. It's unbelievable,
It's
and you can go in
incredible.
and listen to the whole thing and make the changes if you want.
Uh, I've talked to a lot of authors, and I'd say it's probably 75% don't read it, and about 25% do read it. I realize it's probably got to be pretty expensive. Now, I broke down and got myself a iPad. I'm not a technology guy. My dream is to live on 100 acres out in the boonies and have zero technology. Although I like doing this, so I don't know.
Mm.
But I got myself an iPad, and on it is this thing called Gemini. Well, now I have a friend of mine who uses Gronk, and I was at her house, and she's talking to this thing. I'm like, "Is that your sister? Who are you talking to? What's going on over there?" She's like, "No, that's what's her face. She named this thing." And the thing says, "Well, hi, Kim, and this and that." And they're having this conversation. I'm like, "This is not good. You need to seek help." Like I said about my son with chat, so she's addicted to Grok or whatever it is. My son's addicted. So now I made the mistake of asking Gemini a question. Now my wife is worried.
Mm.
Like, "You and that Gemini thing are pretty tight." I'm like, "It's amazing. Ask it something." She's like, "No, I'm not going." So yeah, so I love that. But Doug, you've been amazing. There's so much things we could talk about. I love your story and I love what you're doing. Of course, I'm enamored with the start what if quote question. Um, so I lied earlier 'cause I'm a real estate broker and we lie. But we've all been liars, right? Um, I said I had one question, the what if you could question, so I gave that to you. But I actually have 2 questions, and I don't ever
Okay.
give out the second question. But my last question before we skedaddle is, if there was a thought or if there was something that meant something very deeply to Doug, uh, that you'd like to leave with us, Doug, what's that last thought that you'd like to share with us before we get out of here?
If if I've had a principle that probably made all the change in my life, I would just say, um, the very simple thought is you can't change what you don't own.
You can't change what you don't own.
Yes.
Good. If we don't own it, whether a mistake, a past, something, I like that. You
But it
can't
but it
change
but it
what you don't
but it
own.
also pertains to, people who blame the boss, the company, the government, you know, the right. So let's just say, sometimes if people work for a bad boss. Well, you have to you can't necessarily change who that boss is, but you can own your reactions. You can own change you can own how you work with the person. There's so much in that relationship that you can own. But I think what happens with most people is they don't take ownership of something, and so they're miserable or they're unhappy or what have you, and that's because you can't change it. And so
Wow, I love
that
that.
yeah, that's probably would be what I would leave, um, because it makes me learn to see what parts I own. One other small thing, is my friend Steve taught me once, and when he said it, I was like, "Whoa." He'd been he'd been kinda arguing with his wife or something, and he said, "Well, he said, "I'm 100% responsible for 50% of every relationship." And so what happens is when he tries to get into her 50%, it doesn't go well, right? And I was like, "That was."
Dude, that is brilliant. That is
Yeah.
brilliant. Because
And I just take
honestly,
it that yeah,
you
and
can't
I've used it
control
in
it,
my
right?
yeah, and I've used it in my coaching, and what I found is, and this is a generalization, right, between men and women, because it's a generalization. But what I find is that most of the time in relationships, men aren't owning their full 50%, and women are trying to own more than their 50%. And that's when there's pressure in the relationship.
As a
Own
perfectly
100% of your 50%.
the perfectly unqualified man at anything, which is me, I'm going to second exactly what you said. Dudes are gonna take less responsibility for situation, and women are going to try to take way more responsibility, and
Mhm.
I think that's just a natural thing, and I don't think you're gonna get any crap for that. You might get some crap for the life coaching thing.
And I said I respect it and appreciate it.
Yep. 100%. I'm not gonna edit it, but I am gonna put a heavy disclaimer at the end of this. That was Doug's opinion
with
and not the
with
opinion of
with his email.
Well,
Oh,
Doug, you've been
I will.
outstanding. You have been outstanding. So, everybody, we've been gifted with, I went over, sorry about that, with over an hour of time with Doug Fleener. Doug is the author of the upcoming book, Start with What If? Weekly questions to spark immediate change and growth. And that's out now. So, Doug, where can we find more Doug, your coaching, your speaking, your the 3 books you have out? Where can we get more? Do we want more Doug? Where can we get it?
Well, I'd like you to go to the, website startwithwhatif.com, and the reason I want you to go there is I have a, 44-page excerpt of the book, and I give you all the framework for free. So, you're right. So, I said I couldn't write a whole book just on the what if rule. So I give you the what if moments. I give you the what if rules. I give you about how to apply these things in your life. And then I give you a sample, I think probably of like 15 different questions and what have you. But go download your excerpt right there on that website. You'll also be signing up for my weekly newsletter when you do that. And then if you want, you can just hit the homepage and that'll take you to my books and coaching and other things. But, I want people to take the excerpt, and then maybe, if you like what you read, get the whole book.
Dang, we like free shit. So if we
Yeah,
go to the startwithwhatif.com, that what it is?
correct.
Startwithwhatif.com, and just put in probably what your name and email address,
Yeah, right at the
and
very
you'll
top will
you'll get that.
be a button. Download the 4-day forward and
I love
put in
that.
your name and email, and you'll get it. Thank you.
Or hopefully I'll make it back east sooner because I love it back east. Um, I'll look for this book because I could always use another one, and I certainly need help.
Thank you, Gary.
And you could do that. So thank you,
I
Doug.
appreciate it. Fun conversation. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon. See ya.